Yeah. Fine, Pankaj, yeah, tell me what is your question.
Yeah, thank you. Last time we discussed about PG, and as you mentioned that generally country will drive how many PG should be. But in one of the implementations, saw there are 6 to 7 countries they implemented, but they have only one PG.
That also I
So
discussed.
how
If you
will
know, if you, I think you missed out that point in that discussion. I just included that. I said, okay, uh, the best practice is for each country you can go with the one BZ. The other option we have, okay, which can be solution by HCM consultant, where we can have one BZ, the country specific HR organizations and payroll organizations can be defined within the system. That is another way of solutioning. You might have come across that. I am not saying, okay, one BZ we cannot use for multiple countries. Ideally, we use one BZ for one country. You can have one BZ where the country specific requirement you can manage with the HR organizations and payroll organizations. That's how the solution can be driven. Okay, don't take my point. It's a hard and fast rule which says for one country, one BZ. Okay, that's a normal solutioning we'll be giving. The second option, whatever I referred, that you might have seen. Fine. Any other questions?
My question. Uh, why can't we create primary? Can we create primary ledger without legal entity?
You can create. If you ask me this question, I'll ask you one question. Can you do the business without registration?
No, we can't.
We can't, but somewhere you can see. But the companies which are doing that level of, I mean, if some company is going to use ERP application, definitely you have to think. Definitely they are registered, they're well established, and they are doing the very good business. If you are doing very small, uh, some simple business activities and all, in that case you may not go with registration. In that case, definitely you may not require any registration and all. But if as a company, if somebody is doing some great business, and definitely they'll definitely go with the registration when they are going to use the ERP product. Definitely they'll be having all the registration. The system, it is possible you can create the primary ledger. See, we created primary ledger and legal entity separately. Okay, there is no dependency which we are discussing. Once you create the primary ledger, definitely you have to specify within the primary ledger what are the companies you have, those you are running under which registration, that you have to specify. But think always, okay, every business will run with registration only. Okay, that is a point. But system point of view, there is no restriction. You can go and create the primary ledger without what I can say legal entities also. But when we are recording the transactions, the core business transaction, definitely that information is required. Of course, you may manage with a dummy legal entity if you don't have registration. But the fundamental point is no company will run in any country without respect to country registration as per company law or local laws. Okay, so that is a point we have to understand.
Thank you, Laxman.
Yep, thanks. Any other questions, please? Based on last sessions, whatever we completed, or at least previous session. Okay, fine. Seems to no questions. Then we'll get into the actual discussion. Okay. Before we talk about a few more points on this multi-org structure, so we'll just quickly we'll go through what we discussed in the last session. So what we discussed. So for any company, when you look at any company, there are some key set of information which you can see as a employee information, the legal information, the business transactions, and stock related information. That information, to manage that information logically in the system, will be creating these definitions in the system. This will create the environment in the system to manage the respective information. To maintain your employee information, we have to create the business group, and to maintain our legal company legal information, we have to create legal entity. To manage all your business transaction in the more secured manner, okay, we have to create the operating unit. And inventory, it's nothing but warehouse management, or how many warehouses you have, accordingly will be to manage the stock within the company or goods, or call it as item, will create the inventory organization. And these and all we have to create in the system based on these definitions creations. Okay, you can segregate and you can maintain the data based on the classification what we are discussing here. And when you are going to record the business transaction in the system, those may be related to employee related transactions, or legal transaction, legal reporting related transaction, or day-to-day business transaction, or inventory related transaction. For any transaction you want to record across all these classification of data, so we have to manage all those transactions with primary ledger. So that's the reason just we taken here primary ledger. Now when you look at all these organization units, or say enterprise units, okay, these and all we are discussing as a primary classification in the system, how we these and all will manage in the system for to classify and to manage the data in more secure manner. That comes under multi-org concept. Anyway, we'll just touch that point also, how that partition takes place and all. So on what base will create the BZ? Primarily country. For each country you can create the BZ. The reason, country to country will be having that payroll process totally different, and the country to country currency also will be different. So that is the reason we have to go with the separate BZ. But you may come across a situation where you can have one BZ. Under that, the payroll process, managing the payroll process and employee related information, you can manage by creating the separate country specific organizations. That can be HR organization to manage the employees, and payroll organization to run your payrolls in specific country by following that the statutory requirements in the particular country. That's how you can manage. That is another way of solutioning, but generic practice would be we'll go with a one BZ for one country. Other option is you can have one BZ, but logically you can segregate country specific definitions as a part of HR solution, HRMS solution, and HRMS and payroll. And primary ledger, on what base we decide the primary ledger? For each country, minimum one primary ledger is required. So we cannot use one primary ledger for multiple country. So the reason is, for country to country, definitely currency is different. And in one country, we can have more than one primary ledger. For that, we taken this simple example and we discussed. Okay, we taken this example. So within one country, when you are doing the multiple businesses, each business require different segments to process their business transaction to account the same. So we may go with a separate chart of accounts. When we have a separate chart of accounts requirement, that demands to go with the separate primary ledgers. So two chart of accounts we cannot take into one primary ledger. So for each chart of accounts, we have to go with a separate primary ledger. Even your calendar, currency, accounting method, all are same. Because of chart of accounts, you may go with the separate ledgers. And the third point is legal entity, nothing but company registration information. On what base we have to create the legal entity? It's all about registrations. How many entities we have, those many registrations you can have. You may have multiple entity, but you may go with one registration. One country, for multiple businesses you can go with one registration, or else in one country for multiple businesses you can have multiple registration. It's all about how many registrations you have, that will decide how many legal entities we require. When you talk about operating unit, this is a place where the real business transaction can be recorded. Whatever the transaction takes place in the purchasing department or sales and payables and receivables department, and all the department level, what are the transaction record, all you can manage as a part of operating unit. When you talk about operating unit, you may take branch as a one of the operating unit in your business, or each entity you can take as a operating unit. Okay, so or else you in each location where you run the business, that also you can take as a operating unit. So simple point for now. Anyway, we'll come to know a few more points in the upcoming sessions. For now, the simple understanding. Okay, for each branch you can create as a one operating unit. And coming to inventory, how many warehouses the client has, those many inventory organizations will be creating the system. If client has 10 warehouses, the system will create 10 inventory organizations, and plus will create one more also. That is a logical one. Anyway, that we'll be discussing once you get into the system. For now, you just try to understand how many inventory warehouses the client has, those many inventory organizations we have to create in the system. So when you look at all these classifications, that all need to be managed in the system as in the hierarchical manner. So this is how just we'll manage all the information in the system. On the top level, we'll have a business group where we'll maintain the employee information. To manage the employee information as a part of business group, we'll use the application called as HRMS application. That means with the help of HRMS application, we'll manage the employee information in the area of business group. And under business group, we'll have a primary ledger. This is a standard hierarchy, which we call as multi-org structure. It's a standard hierarchy which is designed and delivered by Oracle. So under business group, we'll have a primary ledger. We know like this is the one which we use to record all the uh, business transaction. Say with this primary ledger, you can have all the accounting transactions. So when you talk about this primary ledger, as per multi-org, okay, the GL and FA will be mapped at primary ledger. These, what is the meaning of mapping and all, we'll understand once we get into the system. And just for now, you take and remember these points. Then you have to wait for some time to understand what exactly the meaning of this. And under primary ledger, we'll have a legal entity. So already we discussed all about registration. So this level, which module will be working as per multi-org structure, LE level will be mapping the cash management application. When we are creating the bank accounts and all, you will understand what is the meaning of that. But this level, we have to understand what is the multi-org structure, which modules will be mapped. This you can keep ready with you for just this information. You may not get meaning from that, but once you reach that stage, definitely what is the meaning of that, there it will get connected. So operating unit, so AP, AR, PO, OM, and many other applications will be running at operating unit level. And inventory organization level will be mapping inventory. That means with inventory concept only will be running the inventory organization. With these module, so only will be running the operating unit. This module level will be running the operating unit. This level, legal entities map. That's how we can see a standard multi-org structure. Okay, this we call a standard multi-org structure. Okay, multi-org, it stands for multiple organizations. Okay, multiple organizations. So this is what we discussed in the yesterday's session. Now if I take simple example, say there is one client who is running the business in US, and they are running the business only in US, and say they are running the business in 3 locations. Okay, the client is running the business in 3 locations. Okay, now if I say in US, client is running the business in 3 locations. Now anyone can answer to my question. My question is, what kind of multi-org structure we can create for this client? My simple point is, in US there is one organization who are running the business in 3 locations. Based on this point, can you decide what type of multi-org structure we have to create in the system? Anyone? My simple statement is, there is one client who is running the business in US, and they are operating the business in 3 locations within US. Anyone, please?
Yeah, by creating operating units, 3 operating units, we'll maintain this business.
No, my question is. No, sis, please. My question is, can you talk about the entire multi-org structure? How many BGs, how many primary ledgers, how many LEs, how many OUs, how many inventory organization? Based on the statement, can you give all the information?
Yeah. One business.
One person, anyone, please.
One primary.
Yeah, three inventory organization. One OU, one PL, and one B.
Okay, fine. Any other answers?
One business group, one primary ledger, one legal entity, 3 operating units, 3 inventory organizations.
Okay, fine. Any other answers?
Yeah, one business group, one primary ledger, one legal entity, 3 operating units, and 3 inventory organizations.
Okay. Any other question? Any other answers? I'm sorry. Any other answers?
I would like to except the inventory organization, sir. Only one in centralized inventory organization we can keep it. Remaining all as the previous people says. One HRMS, one one BG, one PL, and legal entity 1, and operating 3 operating unit.
Any other answer, please? Any other answers?
When you are saying the 3 locations, these locations in the US,
Yeah, I said yes.
The US?
I said given that point also, there is one client who is operating the business within the US in 3 locations. That is my statement. Based on that, I'm just asking, please derive the multi-org structure, how it has to be designed.
That will be a single instance, one BG, as everybody says, one PL, one LE, 3 OUs, and it's dependent upon how many inventory orgs required under each OU.
Okay, fine. Any other answers? Because this is very, very important. Here, this is the point which we have to understand. Any other answers?
One business group.
Legal entity could be 3 because it's located in 3 different locations. They can even go for 3 registrations if a product is divided into different verticals.
Okay. I need complete multi-org structure.
One business group.
Hmm?
One business group, one primary ledger, and 3 legal entities. Operating units based on 3 locations. And inventory based on their management, like where they were getting inventory. Like if they were maintaining 3 locations, we should maintain 3 inventory organizations.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Any other answers? Because this is very critical in every implementation. This is you have to take the right decision. You have to give the right solution. So the rest anyway, you can just go and set up and you can help them how to use it. So it's a very critical kind of the critical point which you have to focus and you have to work, you have to analyze, and you have to come up with a solution. So I'm really sorry to hear all those answers. Okay, few are partially correct but not exactly. Just the thing is, nobody asked me any further questions on this. Just right away they are trying to answer. So the point here is you should understand a few more details on that. I just given the statement, there is client who is running the business in US. Nobody asked me the question, okay, fine, they are running the business in US. Tell me how many registrations they have. Nobody asks. Right away they are telling whatever they feel. Okay, 1 registration, somebody says 3 registrations, somebody may can say 2 registrations. So how you can say this? Okay, when I say one country, yes, simply you can decide. Country specific BZs you can manage, or else for multiple countries you can manage the common BZ where you can segregate country specific data with HR payroll application. That's okay. But in current scenario, one country I said, if you say answered, one BZ, that is no doubt correct. And 3 locations, they are running the business in one country. Here, I never talked about what are the different businesses they are doing. That can be one vertical of business or multiple vertical of businesses. In yesterday's session, we discussed on what base we can decide the primary ledger. If they are running the same business, yes, your answer may be correct, one primary ledger. But if they are running the different vertical of the businesses in the 3 locations, each vertical has a different requirement of capturing the detailed information for each and every transaction for internal external reporting purpose. In that case, definitely they may go with a different chart of accounts. In that case, your answer is wrong. If you say one primary ledger, that may be the 3 different chart of accounts may definitely require 3 primary ledgers. So here we have to understand about that point. The few guys answered one legal entity. That may be correct, may not be correct. For 3 locations related business, okay, if they have single registration, then only one legal entity, or else we cannot say in this is the case only one legal entity. That will be decided. You should ask the question, okay, or else you should think on the point how many registrations they have, those many legal entities. And operating unit, okay, 3 locations they are running the business based on our discussion. Yes, you said 3 operating, that I can agree with you. There will be some cases where that may demand more than also. Anyway, that will come to know. For now, what is the point you given for 3 locations? If you say 3 operating, that I'll agree with you. And when you talk about inventory, your answers, I cannot say right or wrong. Simple point here you have to understand. So inventories, since 3 locations, you cannot say 3 inventories. You guys given the answer 3 inventories. Somebody said centralized inventory. So I cannot take those answers are right. The simple point here is, so how many, you have to say how many warehouses they have those many inventories, right? How can you say each location can be supported by one inventory? There can be, see, I have 3 locations. One location I may have 5 inventories. For other location, to support that inventory related location related business practices, there may be 2 inventory warehouses. For other location, there may not be any inventory. The reason could be that in that location they are dealing with the services, they may not have inventory. So this is how you have to think on this. This is the actual points which you have to grab from this discussion. Okay, so if you ask me the question, the same question, I'll be answering in this way. Okay, good. So you are saying there is one client in US, they are operating the business in 3 different locations within the US. Straight away I can say definitely they need one business group, and minimum they need one primary ledger, depending on how they are going to manage their business transaction. If they are going to maintain multiple chart of accounts, and in case of they are running the different vertical of businesses, depending on chart of accounts will decide how many primary ledgers required, but ideally one primary ledger definitely they required. And legal entities, that depends how many registrations they have to run the business in 3 locations. There may be case where one registration they have to run the business in 2 locations, other registration may to support another location related business they want to go, or else 3 are in one country. If local uh, local laws allows, definitely they can go with only one registration. I cannot say straight away point as 1 2 some numbers. When you say operating unit, okay, 3 location, ideally you can go with 3 operating unit, but there are different cases which may change the number of operating unit also. But as per our discussion in this stage, yes, your answer is correct. Okay, so when I talk about inventory organization, how many warehouses they have, those many inventory organizations we have to create. So this is how you have to think and come up with the answer for this sort of question. Okay, so if I ask one question, there is one client who is running the business in India, tell me their multi-org structure. If somebody is going to start with that answer, that is a very blunder answer, no doubt. You cannot answer. I just said there is one client who is running the business. I never disclosed anything. In that case, only the best answer is put question first, then answer accordingly. So that's how that approach is very, very important. You should not get ready with some information as answered. Okay. So hope this is clear to everyone. If you have any questions on this, please. Any questions, please? So see, just why I put this question, because yesterday we discussed on what parameters we can decide how many. So on what parameters we decide how many we require, always you should remember those parameters when you're answering. You just definitely have to touch that parameter and what elements, what element can decide how many. That's very, very important to understand this.
Yeah, Laxman, you said that country to country payroll process difference and currency difference. That's why one BC enough, right?
See, for country, one country, the same I agreed. That's what I'm saying. You know, US, you are running the business. Yes, one BC is enough. I said, if they're running the business in multiple countries, for each country one BC, or else you can have one common BC. But to manage your country specific payroll and HR processes, you can have a solution from HR and payroll application side, not as a part of business group. That's what I'm saying. As per our current discussion, I'm saying yes, one BC is enough. They're running the business in one country only, US. I'm saying the same. Any other point? So these are very, very important. It's not like just we'll go and do setups and we'll start working on the system, we'll complete something else. So this is a very, very just critical area which we have to focus, and this will decide how the implementation is going to be for any client. So based on this decision only, you can say implementation is going to be successful or it will fail. And very other element is primary ledger. When you are working on primary ledger, chart of accounts is very, very important. Anyway, we'll discuss. Once again, we are going to just create our chart of accounts there. I'll talk about a few more points. Okay, any other questions on this, please? You have to understand very thoroughly. Without understanding this multi-org, how the multi-org can be driven based on certain factors. If you are going to work on the system, understanding the system, yes, you can understand, no doubt, but this understanding is very, very important. Any questions on this, please?
Yeah, primary ledger always depends on the chart of accounts, right?
Correct.
So is there any cases that, single company goes with a multiple chart of accounts, like other than TCS and other products? Suppose say TCS, Tata Communication Services.
Yeah, I got your question.
Is there any chance that...
I got your question. The single organization may go with multiple chart of accounts. They may have a requirement of multiple chart of accounts if they are running the different vertical of businesses. Okay, That is a one case. Other case, they may have a reporting requirement. In that case, they don't use primary ledger. We have separate ledgers. That part we'll be discussing later. But when you talk about primary ledger, a single organization may require multiple chart of accounts since they are running the different vertical of businesses. Only in that case they require, they may go with multiple chart of accounts which demands multiple primary ledgers. Other than that, you don't see the situation where you'll go where the client is running one business in one country and one vertical of one business, specific business. In that case, we no need to go with the multiple primary ledgers, not required. Any question, please?
Mean to say product line?
The product line and all, yeah, you can take that product line, how you will be taking into your business, on what you will be focusing as a classification of your business. It can be some product line. Product line means normally that you can have one of the segment, the different verticals. So you may be into automobiles business, you may be into software consulting, you may be into pharma. These I'll treat as a different line of businesses or different vertical of businesses. Okay, if you see, there is no large, I mean, there is no more business which you are getting out of these different line of businesses. These you can have as a LOB in the segment, as one of the segment in the chart of account. But if you want to go with everything separately, where you have separate registrations and you want to drive each and everything separately, in that case, you may, as per that industry specific or what are the reporting you have to do, how you have to manage. In that case, we may go with a separate chart of accounts. In that case, generally we go with a separate primary ledgers. But in one country, normally we will give the best solution as a one primary ledger by managing all the information, how exactly they are expecting. By meeting with all the expectations, we'll go with the solution of giving one primary ledger. Okay. Any other questions on this, please? So it's very, very important to understand. Any questions, please? Okay, fine. Now I'll take simple example. Say there is one client who is doing the business in US, and they are running the business in 3 locations, and say in 3 locations they have a different inventory organization. Say in first location they have 1 inventory, and for second location they have 2 inventories, and third location they have only 1 inventory organization. So in that case, this could be very sample multi-org structure to understand. I just done some work here, you can see that. So I'll take example as ERPTREE. They're operating the business in US. In that case, we'll create ERPTREE USA business group, and under that, take example, they have only 1 registration for entire business. So in that case, we have under ERPTREE USA primary ledger. Okay, business group, we have to create the, I think just I written something wrong. Okay, here you will say USA primary ledger. And say like they have only 1 registration. In that case, they'll have ERPTREE USA legal entity. And say if they are running the business in 3 locations, in that case we can go with the 3 operating units. So under 1 registration we are running 3 operating units. This is how the multi-org structure looks like. That's how we have to design in the system. So under this legal entity we have 3 operating units. Say they're operating the business in Texas, New Jersey and New York. So these 3 operating units will be having to support these operating units in the process of buying or selling, whatever it may be. We have a different operating. Say for this Texas, this is a operating unit we have, and for New Jersey we have 2 inventory organizations. For New York operating unit, we have only 1 inventory organization. This is how the multi-org structure looks like. Okay, this is how, just based on the requirement, how the things are handling are going to be managed for the client. Accordingly you can draw, and the same we can implement in the system. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. If you have any questions on this diagram, you can just tell me, we can talk on that. Any questions on this? If you are thinking something related to this, please tell me if you need any clarification on that. It's very simple. Whatever, just the simple points we are talking before getting into this, the same. Just presenting by taking some case study, you can say. I'm just taking the case as they're running the business in US. So I have 1 business group. Say they have only 1 primary ledger. Okay, they don't need multiple chart of accounts. Okay, so that can be one business or multiple business they are running. Okay, I'll just take in that way one primary ledger, one registration, so one legal entity. Under that, they are operating the business in 3 locations. So this is how I can take 3 operating units. Under each operating unit, they can have one or more than one inventory organization. Or I'll say, so they're not doing the business, they don't have any uh, say warehouse for New York operating unit, because the New York operating might be doing some services. They're into services. The service organization generally not require any inventory. But in the system point of view, to support the system configuration and all, reality, the branch or the operating unit, you can say, they may not have some warehouse, but in the system point of view, you may create some dummy inventory organization to complete the setups in the system. So that's how we can manage. Any questions on this, please? Fine. Seems to no questions. Okay,
One question.
please.
Hello. Can the West Orange can act as operating unit?
Yeah, definitely. If they have a multiple branches, each restaurant, okay, they can treat as one operating unit only. That's it. You take any restaurant, if they have a say like take in India or US. If you take example in India, if you take some restaurant, okay, take something Swagat or Grand or whatever it may be. If they have 10 branches in Hyderabad, if they are going to use this ERP solution for their the financial operations, definitely in the system we have to create 10 operating units. That's all. Okay, that's it. Each branch or each outlet, okay, we take as a separate operating unit. Fine, because branch wise or say location wise or particular outlet wise, you have to segregate and you have to maintain the data with a more secure manner. So that is the requirement of taking the operating unit concept into the system. Okay, what level you want to segregate and maintain the business transaction. Say you are running the business in Hyderabad. Let me take simple example. You have 4 branches. Branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, branch 4. You have 4 branches. Your requirement is the branch 1 and branch 2, whatever the business you are doing, you are not going to worry about how the branch 1 is performing and how branch 2 is performing. You are going to have a consideration how much business you are getting from these 2 branches without going the analysis of how much we are spending from this branch, how much expense we are incurring for branch 1, how much we are spending for branch 2, and how much revenue we are going to get from the branch 1 and branch 2. If you are not looking for that sort of information, and if you don't have an issue where the branch 1 information can be accessed by branch 2 and branch 2 data can be accessed by, I mean to say, the business transaction information can be accessed by branch 1. If you don't have any issues, if you don't have such kind of requirement, in that case for branch 1 and branch 2, okay, you don't have any issues in terms of reporting, you don't have, just commonly you want to consider consolidated manner, you want to look at those 2 branches. In that case, you don't have a requirement of segregating the branch wise data, you don't have a requirement of generating the reports branch wise, you don't need to understand the profitability or expense which you are incurring, and you are not at all worrying about the security of the data between these 2 branches. In that case, just you can go with one operating unit for these 2 branches. That's it. So this is what we have to understand when you talk about operating unit. Hope it is clear.
Thank you, Laxman.
Yeah, thanks. Any questions, please? See, one point here, please don't take in the other way. When you are asking the question, you can ask me straight away. You don't need to introduce. You don't need to say, Laxman, I have some question, something else. If you have some questions straight away, you can ask me. We'll discuss. Let's go in this way. Okay, fine. Any other question? Fine. So this we call as just multi-org structure, how the structure looks like. Depending on your business, this is how it will branch out. Okay, here I taken the 3 operating, so That's how just I created 3 operating units. If you have a case where you have 2 legal entities, you'll keep one legal entity here, you'll keep another legal entity here. Under that legal entities, you will have a operating units which are supported by specific legal entity. Okay. Anyway, that kind of flow, I mean that kind of diagrams also I'll be showing in upcoming sessions. For now, this information is more than enough to just move to the next level. Any questions on this, please? Okay, fine. Seems to no questions. Okay. Now the other point. What is the greatness of this multi-org structure? What is the greatness of this multi-org structure? Take simple example. Simple example. The client is operating the business in say 3 countries. It can be more than 3 countries. I'm taking simple example 3 countries. I'll take countries as USA, India, and UAE. When company is operating the business in 3 countries, normally what happens in the business is, for US they'll have a separate server. Okay, the general business practice, before we get into the ERP and all, the general practice, they'll have a separate server. They may have separate server for US separately and India separate server and UAE different server. This is how just they'll be managing the information. If there is any business requirement where they have to communicate respect to the business transaction in the system level, that means the communication should happen between the servers with respect to business process in terms of data communication. Okay, so it's a very big challenge because the data is managed in the different servers, and if you want to share some data, the US wants to share some data to India, they can share maybe through mail or through some other channel. Within the server environment, there is no flexibility where they can just pass some information, where they can share some transaction information, where they can do the real business transaction, so which will reflect these 2 countries related business processes. That is not possible. The reason is the complete country specific solution is managed in the different servers. But when we go with the ERP, that too with this multi-org structure, it enables the environment where your multiple countries business operations data can be maintained in single instance. You can manage, you can have one instance, you can have single instance. For your US operations, you can have separate multi-org structure. So within this single instance, I am representing the circle as a one instance. Within that, so for US you can create US multi-org like this. You can, this is one of the example for multi-org structure we taken. So the same way you can create here. Just I didn't given that some classification and all, but take as this is one of the multi-org structure for US. The same way for UAE, India, you can create one multi-org structure. Here you can have the BZ business group and primary ledgers, one or multiple legal entities, one or multiple operating units, one or multiple inventory organizations, all you can have, and you can have multiple the definitions as per your requirement for UAE also. But these 3 different multi-orgs you can manage within the single instance. Okay, that's how you can manage. Or else for these 3 multi-orgs, yes, you can have one single BZ also if you are going to have a separate solution for HR payroll level. The rest anyway under the BZ you will be having primary ledgers country specific. Under country specific primary ledgers will be having country specific legal entities. Under country specific legal entities definitely will be having the country specific operating units. Under those operatings will have a inventory organizations which will be supporting. The multi-org structures can be managed within the single instance where the different multi-org structures related business operations, that means these 3 different countries related business operations can be stored in the single database. This point is very, very important. Please make a note. The total data can be managed in the single database with more secured manner. That means for each country, business operations data can be managed in the single instance in single database where data can be segregated and managed in the very logical manner. The very primary focus is, when you look at multi-org, the very primary focus should be operating unit only. This is a place where actually business takes place. If I take this example, if I'm going to create this environment in the system, just think, in the single instance, all this information will be stored. Along with all this information, definitely operating unit information. These three operating information I'm going to store in one database, but logically there will be great security which will be established in the same database, where this Texas operating unit data cannot be viewed or accessed by New Jersey or New York operating unit until unless you give the permissions. By default, it cannot be accessed. The New Jersey operating unit, their business operations data cannot be accessed by Texas or New York operating unit until unless they give the permission. That's how logically the data can be managed within the single database. That business operations data may be related to one or multiple countries. So that's what will consider, that is a benefit of multi-org. And again, another point is, the data will be secured among all these enterprise units, or say organization units. So within the business group, whatever the employees you have, that employees data can be accessed in any level only if you give the permissions, because this all the information belongs to one multi-org. Because of that reason, you are not going to access from anywhere until unless you don't give the permissions. Okay, there won't be any data access wherever it is required. If you have to give the permissions, then only. Say for example, I'm just going to work on my payables application, or say receivables application. There I need employee information. I should give the permissions. My business, within my business group, what are the employees information I have that can be accessed by which application, where the applications are managed, the operating unit level, or as we discussed, the primary ledger level also we already discussed. We can manage the application called a GL and FA. Say I need information, employee information in my general ledger application. As per multi-org, GL will be mapped at primary ledger level. Because just I need all falls into same multi-org structure, I cannot access until unless I'll give the permissions. How to give the permissions, this and all we'll see in our classes. Okay, how to define this kind of multi-org structure in the system, that also will be understanding. So here, this is the point we have to understand. The multiple countries business can be, for each country you can do the solutioning, how many inventories they require, how many operating units, how many legal entities, how many primary ledgers, how many just BZs. How many BZs means for one country one, and they may go with the one single BZ for multiple countries by managing that solution at the application level. So even if you are going to have multiple countries business in single instance environment, country wise that is secured, and hierarchy wise that is data is secured, not only country wise, this hierarchy wise. Here this data will be secured, and until unless you give access to so and so operating unit, you cannot access. So the Texas inventory, the stock information can be accessed by which operating, you have to go and specify. So that's how that integration need to be established. That's how you have to give the permissions. That means each and every level, this level mean to say warehouse or say inventory level, and operating unit level, and legal entity level, and primary ledger level, and business group level, all the level will have a great security, where data can be segregated and separated and maintained in very secured manner. Even the total data is going to be in one instance, not only one structure related data. Even if you are going to have n number of multi-org structures, all can be managed within the structure, and all the data can be managed within the database with very high security. And when we have this multiple business related structures in the one instance, what is the advantage? If there is a real business transaction taking place between US and India, the same easily can be managed between these two multi-org structures, since those two structures, multi-org structures, we have in the single instance. Okay, and if any data need to be shared, India want to share any information to US, and say India want to report their business transaction which they record in INR currency, they want to report to US in USD. They want to just report. Say, take simple example, that for entire business, US is headquarters, and think India and USA business operations are there as a part of their business as a subsidiaries. In that case, definitely India and UAE has to report to US. In that case, if the three business related information, if you are going to manage in the single instance as a different multi-org structures are under same BZ, under one umbrella of BZ, in that whatever it may be the case, it's easy to share the data across these different countries. Okay, multi-org structures. That's how the solution can be managed. If you have any questions on this, please. So these are very, very important points which you have to understand. So that's give you great information when you're working for any implementation. Any questions on this point, please?
I have one question. As you said, in single instance of EBS, we can have a multiple country and multiple org structure will be there. So I have one quick dot here. When we say multi-org, so that multi-org will have a one BG or maybe scenario where a multiple BGs are there,
Yeah, it can be anything.
And
it can be anything. See
okay,
here,
it can be anything.
I have three countries business. For these three countries, maybe under one umbrella of one BZ, or else for each country I can have a separate BZ. It can be anything. So BZ point of you have that flexibility where you can manage with one or multiple, but solutioning will be totally different. And if you go with one BZ for three countries, the solution will be implemented related to HR and payroll respect to application level. And when you are going with that one BZ for one country, anyway BZ level, just you are specifying everything that will be default and followed for that country specific HR and payroll application. You no need to logically, you no need to create the definition, the system, this definitions, these organizations to support specific country and all. If you have a separate BZs and all, okay, within that environment, whatever the organizations you will create, that definitely will belongs to specific country only. But one BZ if you are creating, logically definitely you have to, within that one environment, logically you have to manage with the different organizations to support respect to country related HR and payroll information. Okay. Any question on this?
Hello.
Yep.
With the help of this diagram, we can use consolidated reports, right?
Definitely. So you have to create that environment also. This will support, since total data is in one environment, you can create the consolidated report. Let me take simple example since you raised a very good point. Say, as we discussed, say we are operating the business in three countries. Okay, so that means for India, US they'll have one primary ledger. For India they'll have one primary ledger. For UAE they'll have one primary ledger. Three countries they'll be running the business. Three countries will have their own primary ledgers. So end of the day they want to do the consolidation. Say, end of the year they want to do the consolidation. In that case, some three ledgers, what are the data we have will be in different currencies. Means in their country, local currency, nothing but in functional currencies. My requirement maybe I want to do consolidation in US. I want to do the consolidation in USD. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll create the separate ledger. We'll create the separate ledger called as consolidation ledger. And what we'll do is we want to do the consolidation in USD. And in UAE, all the data will be in the AED. Then all the AED data will be converting into USD. The data will move to the consolidation ledger. And India, all the business data will be in INR. That will move, just will convert into USD, and the data will be sending to consolidation ledger. In USA, already data we have in USD, the data directly will be moving to consolidation ledger. That means for three countries related business information, we converted and we moved to one ledger called as consolidation ledger. When we have the total data in one ledger, which we call as consolidation ledger, you can create the consolidation reports which will represent three countries of business in single currency. Anyway, that we have that concept will be working. But this is a point based on what the query you have on this. Okay, hope this is clear. Any other questions?
Based on your experience, maintaining business group like for each country as a separate is the best practice, or having one BZ for multiple?
There are no just great challenges when we talk about the BZ and all. Both will support in expected way. It's all about just completely you want to see in the system environment as separate, or you can have only one umbrella of one BZ. Anyway, logically everything will be segregating and will be maintaining in more secured manner. You can see, like, see, I come across the situations where the client will show interest to go with the separate BZ, and I could see a few clients who are going with one BZ. And anyway, logically, ultimately, how you do the business accordingly, you have to keep system ready. That's it. That is possible from these two approaches. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
And moreover, we can have a security also, right?
Definitely,
The PSA
definitely.
people cannot access India related information.
Exactly. It doesn't matter you have one BZ or multiple. I said, like, within the BZ you can have a separate organizations which will support specific country related HR and payroll operation. That's how you can secure the employees and payroll information, country specific. Yes, we will have a security. You don't need to think if you have one BZ, that is a great security. If you have separate BZs, that doesn't support in terms of security aspects as expected. Okay, you don't need to think on that. These two approaches will give the great security model. So we don't need to worry about the security. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, got it.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions on this, please? Because let's focus on these. This is because this is very, very important. Okay. Just if we are not focusing on this, even we can just move to the next step where we can start doing the setups and all. You can understand how to set up multi-org and all. But what are the key factors will drive to decide the best designing of multi-org, and what is the advantage of multi-org, why we are doing that, will be discussing. Okay. So, I mean, till today I didn't discuss on what exactly ERP, and maybe in the first session I just high level I was talking about that. The reason I just kept that point pending. Anyway, once we get into the application, we'll see the reality. There I want to talk on that, what exactly the ERP and how it works, how it will be working in our sessions, point of view, our practice, etc. There I'll just focus on that. For now, this is what we have to understand. What is the meaning of multi-org? Yeah, please.
We are going to enable, if we are creating currencies, right, in chart of accounts, we enable three countries currency in one primary ledger. At that type of case, it will work out in one primary ledger.
One point. We cannot have more than one currency in one primary ledger. So for these three countries, will enable three currencies. For each country, will create separate primary ledger, and for which country you are creating the primary ledger, accordingly will be selecting that country local currency. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyway, just once we create primary ledger, this and all, I think we're done with the primary ledger, right? Yes, we completed. So we have seen, right, we can select only one currency. Okay, the same. Fine. Any other questions on this multi-org concept based on these information or whatever we discussed? These are based on this hierarchy, what we discussed, and based on what factors will drive to decide how many we require. It can be BZ or primary ledger, LE, operating inventory operations. I'll be showing few of the real life examples which are implemented for few clients. I may not give you the exact name, but just I'll put some some test data over there, and I'll be showing the real solutions, how it can be offered and how are already implemented. That I'll just give you that information. May not be in this stage. Later, a bit later we'll work on that. Any questions on this, please? Fine. Good. I hope everyone is clear on this. Anyway, if you have when we are again going through this session, when you are playing again, I just suggest you to do that once again, if possible, from your end, if you have time. If you have any questions, just make a note and you can ask me in the next session. Okay, I will work in that way. Done. So now the point is, if you want to create this kind of multi-org structure in the system, what we have to do is, so in each level of the multi-org structure, this entire multi-org structure will be supported by these applications only, because in each level, see, I'll have a BZ, I'll have a primary ledger, I'll have a LE and OU and inventory. If I don't have any applications, there is no use of that multi-org structure. Those are just blank. Without applications, those are just blank as a hierarchy. Just simple point. I'll create the chart of accounts. I'll give the structure name. I'm not going to create the segments, and I'm not going to have a segment values. What is the use of that structure? It's just blank. Just you kept title without any information. That's how this multi-org structure works without any application. We have applications. The applications security we want to manage the application with the help of applications. Whatever the data we are going to manage in the system that we want to classify, and we have to manage in very secure manner. That is the reason Oracle designed this solution, which we call as multi-org structure. This is a very, very important point we have to understand. Okay, just we are not going to manage these applications. However, we have those, we are classifying what is the level of security, how it can be segregated, with which multi-org unit we can map that application, so that that level only that information will be available, and wherever that information should flow to other application, that can be permitted within this multi-org environment as per the business requirement, how the real business happens, how the each and every department will have a communication. That we'll see once we get into the system, how general communication happens. In the same way, data can flow from one application to another application. That is possible in ERP systems. We'll discuss on that more once we get into the application. Okay, fine. Since no question, I want to move to the next point. So now what we have to do is, if you want to design this multi-org structure in the system, the first point, very first point, okay, when you are working for any client, say you just entered into the project, okay, from which activities you have to start when you are into any new implementation project. Anyway, that I'll be discussing as a part of implementation project process. But as per system process, what you have to start before we get into the system, you have to finalize the multi-org structure. You have to finalize the multi-org structure based on how the company is operating their business. And along with that, it's a very important finalization is within the primary ledger, what are the chart of accounts you are going to have, that also you have to finalize as per the reporting requirements. It can be internal or external reporting requirement. We have to decide. Anyway, we'll be creating the chart of accounts once again. At the time, I'll just focus on that. I'll give you some other information on what information, what segments are key, and depending on business and all that points we'll be discussing. Now, in the fresh environment, when you are working on the project, you will get a fresh environment. Now, at present, whatever instance we are using, that is, say, vision instance or demo instance. But when you are working on the fresh instance, from where to start, how to start, we'll talk on that. Okay. So, say you are into one project, and you will get access to the fresh instance. Okay. You got access to fresh instance. How to go about it? How to start working on this? When you get a fresh instance, you will have access to that instance with a user called as, what is the username in the fresh instance or any instance? Default user is anyone?
Operations.
Admin.
Please.
Sysadmin.
Sysadmin. So operation user you can find only in the vision instance or say demo instance. In the fresh instance, you never find operations. If operations is there, that is not a fresh, that is a demo only. Okay, sysadmin. Remember this. Okay. Username is sysadmin. By default, when you get the product from Oracle, once your client take the license from Oracle, the password, I'm sorry, this is a password. The password also by default sysadmin only. Username and password would be sysadmin. With these credentials, we'll log into the instance. Okay, after accessing the instance with these credentials, what we have to do? You have to start configuring the multi-org. The creation of multi-org in the system, simply we call as configuration. We have to configure the multi-org. How you configure the multi-org? Before you start with that process, you have to finalize the multi-org. How to finalize the multi-org? And which factors, okay, will decide how many BZs, primary ledgers, LUs you require. Those, based on that, you can decide. Before that, we'll have a discussion with the client. How we'll discuss, what we call that sort of discussions and all that I'll be covering in the real-time classes only. But here simple point is, say you discuss with your client and you got that information and you decided, okay, the client required one BZ, one primary ledger, one LE, one operating unit, one inventory, or multiple, whatever. So based on these discussions, you finalized your multi-org structure. So in that case, how to go about the system, we are going to see now. If you want to create multiple operating, yes, you will be able to create. I'll show you how to create multiple operating net. Even I'll show you how to create multiple also. We have a certain scenarios which need to be tested by creating more than one operating net. Okay, you got access to the fresh instance, and you can log into the instance with the sysadmin username and password. And the first point what we have to do is, what is the scope of your implementation project? That's what we have to understand. What is the scope of implementation project means which applications you are going to implement. That is a point you have to understand. Say you are going to implement financial applications, say GL, AP, AR, CM and FA, and a part of SCM you are going to implement inventory, purchasing, order management, and say you are going to implement HRMS application also. So these applications you are going to implement. What are the applications you are going to implement as a part of solutioning for that client business? For all the applications, first we have to create the responsibilities. Now let's take simple example. Here we taken the best example, which module can be mapped at what level. Accordingly, let's go and create the responsibilities for all these applications. Primarily will be focusing on GLFA, CM, APR as a part of our financials, but still we'll go ahead and we'll create the responsibility for these other applications also, so that how the complete process works in this environment we can understand. That would be really good information when you are working in any project. That would be very better understanding when you are working on financial application. So for that reason, to build a complete in and out multi-org structure, what we'll do is we'll go and create the responsibilities for all these applications. Okay, so that you can test complete cycles of P2P and O2C. Okay, let's do it. Fine. So now what we have to do is, first we have to create the responsibilities. So after once you access the instance with the sysadmin user, we have to create the required response. Which responsibilities you have to create? Which modules? The module is nothing but application, only call as modules. Module. Which applications you are going to implement for the client? For all those applications, you have to create the responsibilities. Say create responsibilities. Okay, as per business requirement. So business requirement means project scope. Okay, which applications we are going to implement for the client? Accordingly, you have to create the responsibilities. Now, in this environment, in our classes, which responsibilities we are going to create, I am going to list out. We are going to create the responsibilities for general ledger. We know how to create responsibility for general ledger. That already be done in the system. The same we'll be doing. So GL. Okay, and we'll be creating the responsibility for accounts payables. AP, right? And you'll be creating the responsibility to use the application called as accounts receivable. So AR, short name is AR. And again, we'll be creating the responsibility for cash management. And we'll be creating the responsibility for fixed assets application. And these are the primary key financial applications. Along with that, we are going to create the responsibilities to understand the basic functionality and how the process, how the transaction happens, how finally the information will flow into our financial application. From the purchasing, we'll create the responsibility for purchasing application also. We'll create for purchasing. Short name is PO, because within the purchasing, the primary document which we prepare is purchase order, PO. So with that reference, the application name itself called as a PO. What is the meaning of PO means? Always you should say purchasing only. Within the purchasing application, PO means purchase order. Application point of view, PO means purchasing only. And to understand how that sales order process works, we'll be creating the responsibility for order management also. Sorry. We call it as OM. And to have a basic understanding, because that is a mandatory, we should know. to how to create the employee. It's a simple definition, simple creation to understand, and some other setups also as a part of multi-org. Many setups need to be done from HRMS application only. For that reason, we'll go and create the HRMS application. Let me include inventory before that. Inventory. Just here we'll understand how to create the stock, how to create the items which can be used in the P2P or O2C cycles to raise the purchase orders or to record the sales orders, whatever. So inventory, in short, we call as INV. We'll create the responsibility for inventory application, and to understand the basic functionality of HRMS application, which really required when we are working on any area. It can be finance or any area of application. We should aware of the basic things. For that, related to HRMS, will create the application for responsibility against human resources. HR you can call, or just you can call as HRMS. HRMS means human resource. M stands for management, S stands for system. HRMS means human resource management system. Our application point of view, simply you can call as HR, human resources. Okay. So primarily these are the applications. Okay, primarily these are the applications we are going to create in the. For these applications we are going to create the responsibilities. Once you create the responsibility, then you can start with the actual multi-org configuration. Without these application related responsibilities, there is no meaning of multi-org creation. It will be just empty. No use of creating the multi-org structure without these applications. Okay. So these all applications logically system will create, logically it will take into the consideration of multi-org structure, and it will build the hierarchy. That's how the data flows and security can be managed in the system in a very segregated manner with a more security based on which hierarchy, which application, which response for all the aspects. That we'll discuss once we get into the application more and more. Okay, fine. So what is the scope you have for the project? First, you have to create the responsibilities for all those applications. Okay, after creating the application, what is the next step? We'll be discussing and we'll be working on the same. Now, we'll focus on creating the responsibilities for all these applications. Okay, we'll go and create one by one responsibility for all these applications. Any question here, please? Any question, please? Okay, no question. Okay, good.
I have one quick question here. Generally we'll create responsibility. We should assign, like some primary ledger to that responsibility, or for example, for APA, or if I created one primary ledger, I will assign that. So that's my question.
Yeah, definitely we have to do that. We have to do that. Okay. I'm talking about just responsibility creation only. I'm not talking about if you create responsibility, everything will get ready. I'm not saying that statement. Just I'm going to create responsibilities. There are many steps, right, where we'll go with the complete designing of this multi-org structure, the configuration of multi-org structure in the system. Throughout this process, definitely we should come across those points. Okay, just one point I'm talking about. What is the scope of your project? Based on the scope, which applications you are going to implement, accordingly you have to create the responsibilities for all those applications. That's what I'm trying to explain here. There are many things which you have to understand. There are many things which you have to do based on this, what we are going to do. Okay, if you are going to create just responsibility, it's not going to be endpoint, just it's the starting point. Based on the responsibility, we'll be doing many things that all will come across in our classes. Okay, any question? Because these are very, very important. You can put any sort of question, nothing wrong. I'm ready to talk on that, because in all the aspects you have to understand these points. Because once we get into the application, we'll do setups, we'll record the transaction, this is what we call as future. Yes, all are fine, but prior to that, these points are very, very important. Any question, please? Fine. No questions. Now the first point is we have to access to the instance as a sysadmin user. Now we have our own instance here. Now you treat I am requesting you to treat this instance as a fresh. Reality is not fresh, but I am going to take you the classes how we'll be working in the real time. When you are working on the fresh instance, how we'll be working. That's how I am going to drive all these classes. Please note that point. So earlier just I taken the classes by accessing the instance as an operation user and creating everything. But that is just for your understanding, to give you more information how generally it works, how that vision instance looks like, how the demo instance you can utilize, you can refer for that information. You can take today's session is we are starting with the real implementation process. This is how we'll start with the system when we are working on real-time implementation projects. Okay, the first what we have to do, we have to log into the instance as a sysadmin user. Let's go and do it. Okay, sysadmin, username is sysadmin, password also sysadmin. So when you are working, if sysadmin user is not working, you won't worry about it. Just contact your DBA. DBA may change the password. If not DBA, some other consultant can change the password. It's very easy to change the password in the system. For any user, you can go and change. But what I'm trying to refer is, in every instance, by default, Oracle provide username as a sysadmin and password also with the same. Okay, sysadmin only. If it is working, okay, or else contact your DBA. Or else, if DBA is changing, you may get some communication. You may get mail from DBA or other team members who are responsible to share the instance details when we are going to work on the instance for implementation. Okay, click on login. For sysadmin user, you can see few responsibilities which are already assigned, okay, as a part of product solution. This will be by default. In every instance you can find it. Don't think for sample or just information Oracle is assigned, because these are the core responsibilities or seeded responsibilities. Okay, seeded responsibilities which are really required in the fresh environment. Since this is a vision instance, if you go through these responsibilities, few you can see related to vision enterprise. Wherever you see the name vision, think somebody assigned those responsibilities to sysadmin user. That's all. You don't think Oracle will provide it. In the fresh environment, wherever you refer the name as vision, okay, those responsibilities, somebody when they're practicing for some other purposes, they assign to this sysadmin user. By default, you don't get what are the responsibility you see where the vision is part of that naming convention. Okay, this is a point we have to understand. Anyway, forget about all those what we have, doesn't matter. When you are working in the real time, when you start working in the your instance for system configuration, what we have to do, first you have to log into the instance as a sysadmin user. Then you have to go to system administrator responsibility. From there we'll start our work. Okay, so we have to make sure that you have a sysadmin, system administrator responsibility. Simply you can call it sysadmin responsibility. So you have to go to that. Definitely that would be there in every fresh environment when you log into the instance as a sysadmin user. Done. Now here you can see system administrator responsibility. It's nothing but application name only, they given as a responsibility name also. Okay, fine. Now just expand it. Don't worry about all other responsibilities, we don't require. This is enough. With this we can create everything. So system administrator. Now just click on any one of the function, okay, which will open this system administrator responsibility in the navigator window, or say form based environment. Just click on any one of the function. Just click on this. Okay, good. So this is a system administrator responsibility. Now what is the first step you have to do in the fresh environment? Which applications you are going to implement for your client? For all the application, you have to create the responsibility. Let's do for one by one application. First, we'll go and create the responsibility for general ledger application. Okay, fine. So what is the navigation to create the responsibility in sysadmin? Anyone can answer to this. What is the navigation to create the responsibility?
Security user defined.
Sorry?
Security
responsibility defined. See, why I'm asking this question is, it's not like just you may not remember and all. That is not the point. Just to give you the point, we should remember each and every navigation. We should remember each and every navigation. I'm not sure on with what target and with which approach you are trying to get the job, but if you are going to try for the job where some people we see in the market, they may claim some experience and they'll try for the job. Okay, and if somebody has some that sort of plans and all, definitely you have to be very keen on each and everything what we are discussing. If I ask you some navigation, what is the navigation to create the primary ledger? You should have a quick answer. It's not like you have answer, will be answering by taking some time gap between my question and your answer. There should be some quick question. Oh, sorry, quick answer. That's how you have to get ready with your preparation. That's very, very important. Okay, fine. Anyway, just here the navigation to create the responsibility from system administrator responsibility is security responsibility define. Hope already you've taken this navigation. Now once again you don't need to take, only you have to go through that note and you have to remember this. So navigation is security responsibility define. From this form you can create the responsibility for any application. First we'll go and create for general ledger. Okay, so I'll create the responsibility. So which responsibility created earlier? ERP3, right? I'll change it so that system will allow me now to create the responsibility with ERP3. Now everything, all responsibilities we are going to create with ERP3. Now this response name I changed it. Now we don't have any responsibility for general ledger which starts with ERP3. That's how I'll create new responsibility. Fine. So I'll create the responsibility called as ERP3 general ledger. You can say manager or super user. That means the responsibility which we are going to create, we are going to give the access to entire main menu of particular application. Okay, fine. And before that, let me talk about what is the meaning of this menu and the data group and request group. So that would be more meaningful when we are doing everything. Okay, fine. See, we created one responsibility, right? I think that we named it, changed to tree, right? Let me select. Let me rename it. So this is our actual responsibility. Okay. So within the responsibility, what we have? We have data group as standard and menu, GL super user, and request group name is GL component program group. Just I'll make this as a screenshot. I'll take it screenshot. Okay. Okay, this is how we have a responsibility which we created. Now we'll see what is the meaning of data group and menu under request group. Let me log into this instance with our user. Now just I'm going to log out from the sysadmin. We'll understand this point, then we'll start with our actual process of responsibility creation for all the applications. Okay, so what is the username we given? ERP user or something else, I'm not sure. Let me enter and try. Fine, done. We created a user called as ERP user. Now I'll go to the responsibility called as ERPTREE general ledger super user. Open this. Okay, so fine. Now, if I ask you the question, in this responsibility, in this ERPTREE General Ledger Super User responsibility, how come I'm able to see all these submenus? What is the reason behind it? Anyone?
The menu which we use like a GL super user, which
That's
we
it.
access to all the.
That's it. That's it. That is simple answer. No other information is required. That is true. Because ERPTREE General Ledger Super User responsibility, in this responsibility, we have a menu called as GL Super User. Within this GL Super User menu only, we have all these submenus, and within the submenu again you can have some child submenus, and again maybe some submenus, again submenus, again submenus. Finally, you may have some functions. So within this responsibility, if you are able to see all these submenus and within the submenus functions, only the reason is within the responsibility, within this responsibility, what is the menu you are selecting. Okay, without this menu, you cannot get anything. If you don't have a menu within the responsibility, there is no meaning of responsibility. That is the reason in every responsibility menu is mandatory. So within this GL super user only, we have all this. This also I'll make a screenshot. I'll just show you the proof. Later we'll be creating our own also. I'll explain you this point in a very simple way. If you get it, okay, or else ignore it. No need to worry about it. If I expand setup, within that all these we have, I am taking this also as a screenshot. So that when I'm going to explain, when I'm going to show that, I'll refer and I'll show you. Done. I take the screenshots. Fine. The first point is, in this response, we selected a menu called as GL Super User. The point what I'm trying to explain is, in this GL Super User only we have all submenus and functions. Within this GL Super User, what are the submenus and the functions we have? Those you can see from this responsibility. There is nothing but this. These are all submenus and functions we have as a part of GL Super User. We'll go and see the proof. Really, do you have all these within this only? Because of this only are we going to get all these into this responsibility navigator? This responsibility, we'll just go and check it. But you no need to take the navigation. Whatever the navigation I'm going to take, whatever I'm going to show, just look into that. You no need to take all these points and all. Anyway, have a separate session to give you the better understanding on that, and we'll be creating our own menus also. At that time you can get more and more clarity on that. For now, you no need to focus on that. Just I'm going to show the proof that you just see. If that is true, accept with me. Okay, that's all. I don't have any other expectations. Okay, I don't expect you'll be getting into that actual points. Not required, just see that. So the point is, within this GL super user only, we have all this. That's what I'm trying to explain this. The same I'm going to show you. So from where you can see, in particular menu, what are the submenus, and within the submenus, what are the functions we have? How to find, from where to find? You can find in which menu what submenus and functions we have. You can find from system administrator responsibility. Now I'll switch to sysadmin. So how to switch? Already we discussed. Here we have a switch responsibility icon, sub hat icon, or else from here also you have a navigation. Go to file, switch responsibility. Any option you can choose. Finally, system will give you the option to move to another responsibility. If I click on the switch responsibility, this user has access to how many responsibilities all system will list out, right? Just click on this. This user has access to 3 responsibilities only. Now we want to go to which responsibility? System administrators. System administrator responsibility. Select system administrator responsibility, say okay. Now complete will be moving from ERPTREE General Ledger Super User responsibility to system administrator responsibility. Say okay. That we are in the system administrator responsibility. What we want to do, we want to go and check within this GL super user menu, do we have, okay, do we have all these submenus? And again, if you expand any one of the submenu, again this sort of submenus or some functions. Do we have these all within that or not? We are going to check it. We'll go and see that. So how to check it? You should know first of all menu name. What is a menu? Seeded menu for GL. Every application Oracle will provide one menu. That menu only we call as seeded menu. Please remember what we call seeded menu. Seeded. Whatever we get as a part of product when you buy the license from Oracle, those data we call as seeded data. Out of the seeded data, one of the set of data is menus also. We call as seeded menu. What is the seeded menu for GL? For GL, seeded menu name is GL super user. Within this GL super user only, we have all these submenus. We'll go and see that. You don't need to take all these points, not required. Anyway, we have separate session for this. For now, just to give you the high level understanding before we go and create many responsibilities as a good information, I'm trying to show you this. That's all. Don't take not required in this stage. We have separate sessions. Okay. So to see in which menu, which submenus and functions we have, it's from system administrator, I'll take the navigation as application and menu. Through this navigation, I can query the particular menu, and within that menu what we have we can understand. Navigation is application menu. You may not take this information, not required in this stage. Done. Now I want to see what we have within the GL super user menu. Just query. How to keep the form in the query mode? Already discussed. F11. F11. That's all. F11. Done. Now you want to query and see what are the submenus and functions you have in which menu. The menu name is GL super user. GL underscore super user. How to execute the query? Control F11. Yep, Control F11. So now it will display within this GL super user what are the submenus we have. These are the actual submenus. These are the prompt names they given. So see here within this GL super user only we have journals, budget, inquiry, currency, consolidation, reports, setup and other. The same you can see if you go to the screenshot which I made. The same we have, right? Journals, budgets, inquiry, currency, consolidation, report, setup. And here I take another screenshot. If you click on setup, is all again submenus we have. That means setup is one of the submenu name, right? Setup is one of the submenu name. This is submenu. Actually, this is submenu name. For this display name, they given as a setup. So that means within this GL SU means submenu. GL SU setup. Within the submenu, only we have all these. Okay. For this submenu, the name is display name is setup. That's what you can see as a setup. Under the setup, if you have all these submenus, that means all are part of this submenu only. If you want to see within this GLSU setup submenu, do you have all these from financials to open or close? Do you have all these? If you want to check, what you can do is simple. You can copy this submenu name. My big request is, based on the sessions, don't go and disturb the GL super user. It will be the problem for entire instance. We have to change the instance if you play with this. So that is the reason I'm requesting in this stage, don't take this navigation, don't open, don't try with that. In the sessions, what you are trying to understand, that is enough. Anyway, I'll be showing. By the time you will be good enough in terms of understanding the application, you can just definitely will be able to, will be knowing whether really you have to touch and disturb something or you should not do that. So that is the reason. For in this stage, you don't need to take all these points. Just try to understand. Just go through what I'm trying to explain. No need to take the navigation also. We have separate session for this. My requirement is within the GLSU setup to have really all these or not, I want to understand. So for that, what I have to do is copy this submenu. This is submenu. So in this submenu only we have all this. So we'll go and do verify that. So for that, what you can do is keep the form in the query mode F11. Sorry. Okay, keep the form in the query mode F11. You want to open and see which submenu. I taken in the notepad. GLSU setup. Copy and paste, or you can write it if you remember. And you have to execute it. What you have to control F11. Within this GLSU setup only we have financials, accounts, journal, currencies, tax, employee, system, other, and open and close. See here, we have same or not? Financials, account, journals. Financials, account, journals. Okay, currencies, tax, employee system. Currency, tax, employee system. Other and open, close. Other and open, close. So this is a proof. Okay, that means when you are creating any responsibility, it's a mandatory you have to use menu. If not menu, you can use submenu also. How to use it, everything I'll be explaining. For now, try to understand. We'll be using the menu. That is the purpose of menu, why we take as a part of responsibility creation. Hope it is clear. Any question on this, please? These are very, very important points to understand. So the purpose of menu in the responsibility is to give the access to submenus and functions. Yeah, please.
There are some prompt having some of them, so for some of them has value and some of them doesn't have value. What is the significance of that one?
I'm sorry, just can you repeat it? There was some kind of noise or somebody else was speaking. I could not understand properly. I was focusing on that, whether they're going to mute or not. Please, could you please repeat your question?
If you go to the menu, we have prompt. In the prompt, we have for some of them we have values like a setup or something. So some of them are having blank. Some of them like a hidden functionality. What is the significance of that hidden functionality?
Yeah, just let me open. You can ask me based on that. Now you can raise your question.
Yeah, here if you see the prompt, the column prompt, for some like journals, budgets, inquiry, like that we have. But for some of them like for some of them like submenu AGL _PR _GL, we don't have any prompt value.
Yeah, see here. See in the same way, like if you go to below also, you will be finding few more. Okay. So these and all certain functions, the futures, which will supported by general ledger application, which are not directly, see here, let me show you, and later I'll explain, it will be more clear. See here, we have from journals to other. If you see the screenshot which I given, you can find from journals to other only, right? We have up to this. The remaining what we have where you don't have prompt, those are the futures which are related to general ledger application, which will be useful in the process of using the general ledger application in the different activities. Those may be related to some self-service web applications, those may be related to some workflow related. Okay, these and all will be supporting the entire functionality. Apart from these functionalities, those can be available based on certain additional setups which you do to enable that relevant processes as per your business requirement. So that's how we'll be having, but these we have to treat as these are the primary uses which will be coming across. The remaining all, it will support, okay, certain these few submenus, the functions. It's a direct function. Function means particular function, specific application functionality. These few, okay, define access, definition, access set, and all. Okay, these won't be part of these direct navigations. Through this navigation they don't give, but these will be linked. Few of these wherever you don't have prompt, those are few of these which are listed here are linked with this. Those are inherited, I can say inherited. There will be some hierarchy which is a hidden hierarchy, but definitely those will be supporting to work on all these application. Certain you don't see directly until unless you are working on the relevant process. In the process, since that functionality will be supported, so and so functionality will be supported by specific process oriented options, those can be given here, which you no need to access directly. And again, the few functions are few submenus will be something common which are required to connect with other applications, which will establish some integration and common services across other applications. That's how. But reality, when you are working also, you don't need to worry about it. We never touch those. Those are there as a part of solution. We'll be working only with this. You don't need to touch other points. You don't need to disturb, or you don't need to, frankly speaking, you don't need to understand. Okay. So that's how it works. Okay. You don't need to focus on that. That we never require. Oracle given the seeded one. That's how we'll be using. If you want to give access to only setup for some user, you'll be copying and you'll be creating your own menu. In that case, you no need to touch that as a part of the product solution, and this is seeded menu, and that's how all they given within this. Okay, so as a part of these solutions only, few will be supported for overall the application related process. Few will be supported in terms of, see, what happens is when you are within this general ledger application, if you have some journal, the journal you received from which application, if you want to know, you can drill down. If you click on this GL related journal, the journal is coming from which application, it will establish the connectivity. To support that kind of functionalities, they have certain things within the system. Those also they'll be including here. Some FSD, some reports related definitions you can drill down, some other account analysis, some other related information, where some established system, Oracle developed some connectivity GL with other applications in terms of some relevant some function related process flows, all they given as a part of this. Okay, those are inbuilt, those are something like hidden. Certain things hiddenly will support for the actual business process and the respective functionalities. So that is the reason you don't need to understand that. Not at all required. Okay, not at all required. Okay, you can just focus on this. Only these, what are the prompts we have, these are the primarily will be used, where as a consultant or business user will be focusing on that. Wherever prompt is not there, those we no need to touch from front end point of view. That will be running this application related functionality being in this instance. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. Any question, please?
Laxman, can we create our own prompt and submenu?
Everything we can create, that I'll be showing. Not now. Okay, this stage will not required. First, let's try to understand the application, how will be starting our real implementation. The same process, which stage we have to create our own custom menus, means new menu creation only we call as custom. What we create new, that normally use the term called as custom. So how to create, I'll show you. I'll take you through the approach of how we do the real-time implementation. That process in which stage we'll be doing, accordingly I'll be showing. Fine. Any questions, please?
Laxman, based on the organizational structure, even within a department, for example, accounts department, different users will have different jobs to do or different functions.
Exactly.
So based on that, we'll have to give them different menus and
correct.
items, right?
Exactly. See, there may be one user who has to work on just invoice process. There may be another user who has to work on just payment process. There may be other user who has to work on just vendor management, supplier management. In that case, when you go with menu, what Oracle is providing for accounts payables, will be having primarily one seeded menu. Within that, we'll be having everything. But I have a user which is working in the payables department. Okay, we'll be working on just invoice process. In that case, I'll be creating the custom menu which gives the access only for invoice process. In the same way, I'll create one more custom menu for payments, one more for supplier. To access this only invoice process, I'll create separate responsibility. For payment, I'll create separate responsibility. For supplier, I'll create separate responsibility. That's how we'll be giving. That we'll be discussing, but in this stage, I don't want to give you, which is a great confusion for you guys at least. Okay, let's go with the standard actual process, how really we have to work on. Definitely everything I'll be covering. Okay, that's how we designed this course. We'll be touching all this. That's what I said. We'll create our own menus as a part of real time when we are solutioning, how we'll go about it. The core area, core application functionality and the complete implementation process we have to understand. Once you are done with that, these are pretty simple and easy things which you can start doing. Anyway, I'll be showing how to start with that, this kind of things. Okay, hope it's clear.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? See, every question is valid. Really, I respect it, but there is a time. There is time to discuss. That is the reason I'm not just taking it to forward from there, because there is time where we'll be touching those as a part of our course curriculum and the sequence of learning. Any questions, please? And this point, what we are focusing on this point. Okay. Fine, you don't see any question. I don't see any questions here. Now let's jump into that. Now we are very clear on how we are getting all these submenus and functions within this response only because of menu. Okay, good. Now what I'll do is I'll open this any one of the function within that menu. I'll click on journal creation form. I'll create some journal. I'll enter some code combination. I'll save it. Where this data has to be stored, please, anyone can answer for this kind of question. Where this data will go and store?
In GL database, GL related tables.
Exactly. Okay, I'll take simple answer as database. You said very well. GL related tables. So in the database, the data will go and store in the GL related tables. Exactly which table? The table is journal table. Fine, done. Good. So once you create any transaction, any information within this responsibility, within the ERPTREE general ledger super user responsibility, if you create any information, it may be setup, it may be calendar, it may be chart of accounts, it can be primary ledger, or it may be journal, anything. From this responsibility, if you create something where it will go and store in database. In which database? In database where it will be stored. In the database, there will be space for each and every application. For GL, there will be separate space. For AP, there will be separate space. And CM, there will be separate space. For each and every application, there will be some allocated space. Technically speaking, the application relevant space within the database we call as schema. We call as schema. In the room, in house, the partitions, okay, we are calling as rooms. In the house, the partitions, we are giving the term called as rooms. In the same way, in the database, the application specific area where that specific application data can be stored, that partition we are calling as schema. So when you do anything from GL responsibility, data will go and store in the database, the area which is allocated for GL, which we call as GL schema. If I do something from AP responsibility is created against AP application only. However, GL responsibility is created against GL application. The same way, if I go and create something from AP responsibility, the data should go and store in the database, okay, where we have a schema for AP. In the same way, for every application, there will be some schema. The schema is nothing but allocated area for a specific application. Now the point is, from this responsibility, in this responsibility, okay, I'm going to have a responsibility called as ERPTREE general ledger super user. Through this responsibility, I'm going to have access to this menu related submenus and functions. By using any one of these menu related functions, if I enter something, it can be setup or it can be some business transaction information, whatever it may be, where this data has to be stored. The data has to be stored as we discussed in the database. For the database, what we have in our application, Oracle given the name as that is standard database. That's what we are specifying here. What are the data you enter through this menu related functions, the data should go and sit in that database called as standard database. This is the database name. Okay, so functional point of view, try to understand that is a database name. And the technical point of view, they will be referring as a data group. Within that one environment, they can have multiple data groups also. It's a purely technical understanding, but we don't need to get into that. Functional point of view to understand simple point. When you enter some data by using this menu related functions, in which database the data has to be stored. And within our Oracle application, we have one database called as standard database. So we are specifying in which database data has to be stored with the help of data group name. We are specifying in which database the data, this menu related functions data need to be stored. Okay. it will go and store in the data will go and store in the standard database. But within the standard database, we have many schemas. In which schema that has to be stored? So very simple. The responsibility you are creating against which application, that application related schema only, it has to be stored. We are creating the responsibility for general ledger application. So definitely within the standard database, data should be stored in the schema called as general ledger schema. Why we are selecting general ledger? Because we are creating the responsibility for general ledger. The menu also related to general ledger only. This menu is related to GL. Okay, that is the reason this GL data should be stored in the GL schema only. GL data should not be stored in the AP schema. That's wrong, totally wrong. So that's all about, we are giving this specification. Okay, this is how we'll be giving access to the user to work on the application that can be set up some process. Once you, by using this, if you enter some data, where the data has to be stored in standard database, within the standard database, in which schema, the schema should be based on which menu you are using, or say based on which you are creating responsibility against which application. Is it clear, or any question? Simple. To store the data, what is the targeted database we are giving? Always we use standard only. You no need to go with some different database. That approach we never use in this application. Since you are going to use these Oracle applications from this, we never go with some different database. Always we use standard. Any questions on this, please? That's the meaning of data group. Where the data, whatever the data you are entering, it has to be grouped and maintained in which database, and again within the database in which area, nothing but which application area. The application area only as per database we call a schema. The schema name is schema, which we have for general ledger, that we are giving. Any question on this, please? Okay, so now if you look at any responsibility here, already we discussed how to create responsibilities. The simple answer is, okay, by just with the help of data group, menu and request group, we can create the responsibility which we discussed. But when you look at these three components, data group, menu and request group, this made up of this responsibility. So out of these three, two only mandatory, menu and request group, sorry, menu and data group, but request group is not mandatory. Why it's not mandatory, we'll see. But first of all, why these two are mandatory, we'll see. So definitely to enter something, to perform some activity, data entry or setup, definitely menu should be there. Okay, you are doing something by using some responsibility with the help of menu. When you are entering something, you should have a target of storing the data in the database. Otherwise, no use of that work what you are doing. So that is the reason definitely database also you have to specify. So through this you will enter the data. The data will get stored in this specified database of respective application area, nothing but schema. So when you are entering, definitely that should be stored. That is the reason when you have menu, data group is mandatory. Okay, if it is not clear, let me know. We'll talk on this. So very fundamental, simple points which you have to understand. Done. Hope everyone is okay with this. Now I'll just get into this responsibility. Now my requirement is, we created one journal, right? I think in the last session we created journal. And we tested. Now my requirement is, I want to know in this month or today or in this week, how many journals are created in the system. How many journals are created in the system? I want to know. I want to know today or this week or this month. You can go with any option, how you want, accordingly you can go. I want to know, I want to create the report. I want to generate the reports, how many journals I created, or what else we created, something I want to understand. For that I have to generate the report. Anyone tell me how to go to SRS window?
View request.
View request. Fine. Okay. So view request. If you click on find, you'll be finding whatever the request is running. But now anyway, we don't have any request. So here you can notice, here we have one tab called as submit a new request. And here also you can see the same. Both are same. From here you can go with this option, or else you may click on find. If something is there, you can find. So these are earlier requests which we submitted. And here also we have same tab, submit a new request. From anywhere you can just find it. I'm closing it, again view requests. See here, the same tab you have on this pop-up window, or here also, anything you can proceed. I'll say fine. Now we'll be landing on request page where you can see existing requests. Now my requirement is I want to generate the report which gives me the information how many journals I created in this week or in this month. For that, what we have to do is you can go and submit the report. So what I'll do is I'll go to the submit a new request. Okay, just click on submit a new request. Then click on OK. See here, by default system selecting single request and request head. That will be understanding later. Just I'm going to submit one request only the system to produce the report. That's it. Okay, with the request set you can submit multiple. How it works, we'll see that. Okay, I'm not disturbing anything here. The process, standard process I'm following. Click on submit a new request, then say OK. Now system will ask which report you want to generate. Here if you click on this field of LOV, you can find many reports are available. Many reports are available. Many reports are available. My requirement is, it's very simple. I want to create one report. I want to submit one report which gives me the information how many journals I have in this month or in this week or in specified dates. Okay, so in that case you can see many reports we have here. I may go with a particular report. These are all our reports. Journals 132 characters, 180 characters, journals check or batch summary. Okay, many we have. I'll just go with any one of the report. Okay, I'll just go with this report just for our simple understanding. The report name is journals entry. I'm selecting this report. Okay, selected. Now I have to tell to the system I want to see the journals from which are created in particular ledger. Which ledger related journal, because we create a ledger by using the ledger only, primary ledger only, we create a journal, right? So once you create journal, that information will get stored in the particular ledger only. Now I want to see the journals which are stored in particular ledger. So which ledger you can select here, ledger name you can give. So ledger set separate concept that will come across when you're working on GL, but for now ledger name. These we call as parameter. Remember, based on the parameters whatever you provide, the report output will get generated. So ledger name is, just you can select the ledger name, ERPTREE India primary ledger. Currency, within this primary ledger, the transaction which you recorded in USD only, right? I think this is the one India we created. Okay, fine. India, fine, no issue, just INR then. And system is asking you want to find out the report for which company. Automatically system will prompt. I'm selecting for company 1. Say OK, and here it is asking for which account. I want to know only this admin expense related how many journals I have. I'll select it. If you want to select all, you can go with a low and high. For any account means 1000 you can give here as a low and 3000 you can give as a high. That's how you can do, but now it's okay, just we can go with one account just for our understanding. Just I'm trying to show you how to submit the report. Okay, and I have to give the period. I want to see the journals which are created in Feb. I'll select Feb and start date as well as end date. If I want to know from Jan to Feb, I can select start date as Jan and end date as Feb. Done. Now just say OK. Just click on submit. Just say no, we don't want to submit one more request. Then click on refresh. Now system will generate the report. In Feb, what are the journals you created, you can see in this. Done. So you can see the phase is completed, status is normal. Now just you can click on view output. It will show that information how many journals we created. Only one journal we created, that is journal name is expense. We created with 10,000. The same, it is just giving the information, beginning total, ending total, grand total, etc. All it will be showing for the same amount. This report format and all the representation is showing. So this is how you can see any information which is existed in particular ledger. So how we are able to find? Because of report, right? How to run the report? Go to view, request. You can click on here, or else from here also you can click submit a new request, and you can go to click on OK, and from here LOV you can find all this information. How come we are getting all this information here? The reason is, see here, the title is reports. All these are reports. Within these reports, we'll be having some programs also, which will do some process that we'll discuss later. For now, for your understanding. So this all, we have all these are reports you can understand. Okay, programs also will be there, which will process the data. That is the other point. We'll see that later. Now the simple point is, we have all these reports. How we are getting all these reports when we are in this, which responsibility? ERPTREE General Ledger Super User Responsibility. From ERPTREE General Ledger Super User Responsibility, you are able to run the reports. You are able to run the reports by taking this navigation. Okay, fine, it's just gone. Okay, okay, we are able to run all those. How we are able to run? How we are able to run? The reason is, for this ERPTREE General Ledger Super User Responsibility, you assign request group called a GL Concurrent Program Group. What is the purpose of this? It consists of reports. It consists of reports. So if user, from this responsibility, if user has to generate the reports, then you can give this request group. Otherwise you can remove. That is the reason it's optional. But when you enter the data by using the menu, that has to be stored in this database. That's a mandatory. But you may give access, may not give the access to user to generate the reports. That means request group consists of reports which are related to the particular application. So this is the point we have to understand. Now for your understanding, what I'll do is, I'll go and remove the request group. Go to System Administrator and go to your, go to your responsibility. Okay. What is the responsible name? ERPTREE. I'll just go and remove it. It's not mandatory, right? You can remove it. Remove it and save it. Done. Okay, now just go back to General Ledger Super User ERPTREE. Now just try to run the report. You cannot have access. You can go to that form. Okay, you can just, you may click on find, whatever the process you want to follow. Now go to submit a new request and say okay. Click on LOV. Nothing is available. That means all the reports we are able to access from this responsibility because of request group. That is the use of request group. Okay, that is the use of request group. Okay, so menu to give access to the user to work on particular functionality. The menu will be organized with the submenus. And data group is nothing but the targeted database where that menu related function related data need to be stored. And so based on this, we'll enter the data will get stored in this database. So whatever the data is getting stored in this database which are related to general ledger, if you want to run the reports, you can use the request group. Enter, it will be stored here through this request group related reports. You can view the data. This is to enter, this is to store, this is to view. That's all. Any questions on this, please? This is what we have to understand the purpose of responsibility. That means the responsibility will give the access to the user to work on certain things. Logically, we are specifying where the data has to be stored. Other side, the user can run the reports from that responsibility through request group. If you assign request group, the user can have access. If you remove the request group from the user responsibility, that user cannot run any reports. Any question on this, please?
So right now we are giving GL concurrent program request group, that is like a super user kind of thing, where it has access to all the requests.
All the reports.
Real users doesn't require all the reports. So in real time, all the reports are not required for all the users.
Correct.
So do have a provision to restrict?
Exactly. No user require access to, maybe one or two may be required, but all users not required to have access to all the features which are there in the menu, and all the users may not be required to access to all the reports. We can create our own menus and we can create our own request group. That I'll be showing in the classes. Even I'll show you this, whether within this GL concurrent program group we have all those reports or not. I'll show you that. No need to take this point. It's a simple process. Don't take it anyway. I'll be showing the classes, the detail level. I'll show you custom. I'll take some specific business requirement. I'll create accordingly. I'll show you the result also. So security, responsibility, say request. Here you can give the request name. F11. This is a request group which we are using for GL, and query this. Control F11. So within this, these are the reports are available. Same from SRS window, we could see all these, right? The same we are able to see from here. That is a proof, as these all reports are part of this request group only. So this report only we submitted, right, to test. That's it. So this is what you have to understand. Any questions on this, please? Any questions on this, please? So very, very important point is from your side, how much time you are spending for this learning, just not attending the classes. You should take all these points into your note, and there should be the option where you can go through it, that sort of information. The detail level, you have to take the note. After that, it's a mandatory. Really, if you want to get job on this, you have to read multiple times till you remember all the stuff, where you will get a confidence of explaining to someone, presenting to someone. And the other side, you have to do the practice multiple times. If you can do all those things, definitely there will be scope. There will be scope of getting job on this, what you are targeting. Otherwise, so maybe after 2 or 3 months, after you'll be completing the course, then you'll be continuing with your jobs only. I'm not telling this point to everyone, just as a generic point. I'm just sharing who require this point. Okay, that's it. That's very, very important. So how you are doing this course, that's very, very important. It's not like just doing the course, attending all the classes, understanding everything. That won't help you. That may be first step. You have to take all the points into your note. After class, if you open your note, it should replicate it. It should be as a mirror to the entire class which we discussed. And there should be good information out of all the discussions what we are doing. You have to read it. You have to remember. Okay, you have friends. If you have friends who are working on this Oracle financial application, if you have friends who are learning this, okay, or else see here I given the option today where you can see other participants also. Now today meeting you can see 15 members. I can see others can see each other, and you can chat with other people also. This is how you can start communicating. You may just, if you guys are interested, you can change, exchange your contact numbers, email IDs. That's how you can keep in touch, and you can just, you may spend some time for these discussions if possible from your end. That's how you can start working on that. Other side, you have to spend more time on the system practice. If you practice one time, it's not a great job, frankly speaking. You have to do practice multiple times till you remember each and everything without referring the system, without opening the system. You should be able to explain how to do, what you are doing, that process, how it can be done in the system, where you have to click and all. These all points you should remember. Then only you will reach your expectations. Your expectation is getting the job. Okay, that's very, very important. You have to invest good amount of time. Okay, so it's very important. I hope you know this very well, but let me talk about it once again. Okay, fine. That's all. Any questions on this, please? So maybe in the tomorrow session we can start working on the responsibilities creation for all the applications. Then just that's the actual process of creating the multi-org. This is as a first step. We'll do this. Any questions on today's session, please? Fine, no questions. Then we can wind up the session for today. See you tomorrow, same time. Have a good night and good day. Thank you all.